Well, hello and welcome again to Edison Light Globes. Today, what we're going to do is something a bit different. We're not going to do any lighting. We're actually going to make up a table. Now, we've had these tables for quite a while. They're made by the same guys who cast our wall plates in cast iron, and they're all cast in India. And the same guys in the same foundry, they make these fantastic crank tables. Now, whilst they're rustic and rough and a little bit industrial, they're also a table that you've got to either make from parts, from bits, assemble, or we ship in one assembled part we test. Unfortunately, due to the fact that we have this virus thing and things aren't what they are, what they were, or what they should be, we're limited to 70 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds for people in North America. I've forgotten pounds. 70 kilos.
120-ish.
120-ish. I don't know. It could be 10. So anyway, 70 kilos. So we're limited to any particular box that we air freight being just 70 kilos. So what that means is we have to disassemble this damn table. And then we thought what we might do is do a video to show how it's actually assembled, because it's not straightforward and there's no instructions. So we've got it laid out roughly how, in bits all over the place. So roughly what you do is disassemble. Things will be labelled, but essentially we have the main truss, which is the centre part of the table. So what we'll do is we'll start with the centre truss. Now, I've forgotten to get gloves, because you need gloves because they're a bit oily, greasy, because they're actually gears and things on. So I'm just going to get some gloves. So I use these black nitrile gloves. They'll probably be a bit hard to get hold of just at the moment because we have a bit of a shortage of protective clothing and various things. But if you can get black nitrile gloves, this would be the best thing to use. It'll stop your fingers getting damaged, stop you cutting yourself, but also most importantly, stops you getting grease all over yourself. So we now have the gloves. Now the first thing is we need to put in these set of poles. These are the things that hold the tabletop, and they're the geared part that allow the table to be cranked up and down. Now you'll notice on the truss there is a little bolt which locks into this slot, which stops it from spinning. So we'll find that little slot and we'll just drop that into the hole. Oop, I think that's gone in. Just testing it. Has that gone in line? Anyway, the other thing is to make sure that you have this top part which holds the, I can't see it, there is a bolt at the top here, make sure that that's at the top. Same on the other side, I don't know if you can see this. The slot to the back and drop it in. Now we have those two components together, and these will be at the top of their, at the highest point. So this is the highest the table would go on the crank. The next thing we want to do is actually insert the crank. You've got to move that around. So this crank will come with a handle bolted on the wrong way. So we just take the handle off. We don't need that until the very end. Just make sure that you don't lose that nut. Also the crank has a bolt and washer on the other end. I've dropped it. See, they're a bit greasy. Now this will go essentially into here. What we need to do is turn this over a tad and insert. You can lean it back onto the handle, but you should put the bolt just finger tight back to hold that wheel from coming out. So this has the worm gear on it that will actuate the whole device. Now, that's not going to sit there, so I'm going to sit that down. Crikey, it's heavy. Okay. You might need two people to do this by the weight, because it is really heavy. Now the next part is the cogs. Now the cogs sit on the centre bearing, and that needs to be bolted again to the main truss. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is undo these nuts, take these off, take the box section off. It actually goes that way. And same on the bottom one. Oops, take the nuts off. Now, I've got this back on. That should be welded on, but it's actually come loose. But it doesn't matter because it just butts against it. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to pick up this whole thing. I'm going to sit it in there. There you go. So the first thing we're going to do is put the box back in. Which, as I say, should be bolted on. So now we end up with these two bolts right through in the right spot, and we're going to attempt just to put the nuts on the back, just finger tight again for the moment, just so they're in place. This is a bit trying to feel it a little bit blind. It's not unlike trying to put an oil filter on a Mark II Jaguar. Can't see anything. What did I say there? So, with that done up, you'll notice that the cog, the worm gear is sort of almost attached to our main, I'll move that across a bit, to our main gear. And the end gears are sitting in the end pieces. It looks like it's actually a little bit out of centre. Pretty close. Anyway, roughly that is it. It's turning the gear slowly, but the gear's not locked in. Now to get everything locked together, this is where it gets difficult. This is where I need two people, because I'm going to have to hold up the end and bolt on these components to the legs, and the legs are heavy, so you will need at least two people, maybe three. One to do up the nuts and bolts and two to hold it. So what we'll do is put the camera back on the tripod, and I'll get the cameraman to give me a hand, because there's only two of us here today. So we'll first do that. So, now that we have the main frame, the wheel, the shaft with the cogs and the uprights together laying flat, what we're going to do now is put the two ends on. And as I said, I'm going to need another pair of hands to do this. The first thing I'll do is come over here, we'll tip it up so we get it on its end for our upright. Just take the hammer out. You hold that there. I'm going to grab one end. Now, the big problem with these ends, they will be labelled. Even though, oh crikey, they're heavy. Even though they are symmetrical, they're cast exactly the same. The holes aren't drilled exactly the same. So each end will only go on a particular end. So we'll label these left and right, A and B.
Inside, outside.
Inside, outside.
Yeah.
Something. So the first thing is to lift this main shaft, and you'll see here there's a hole. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little hole there for this shaft, and that shaft's got to go in that hole. So you can lift that up, and I'll slowly get that on. So that will just sit on the shaft. There is a little bolt and a washer. Oops, hold this, which will go in there. And what I will do is I'll put one bolt and one nut into one of these. Oops, you got it? Yeah. That's it. I'll put one in to hold the weight. And again, just finger tight so that it's just holding it. That's it. You got it? Okay, now we'll put the other end in. So nothing tight at the moment, just loose. Right. What a day fight. Okay, so we lift. Yeah, we'll get it. I'll push it in. It's the heavy end. You got the heavy end. This is probably easy to do on the floor too. We're doing it on the bench. So again, while you're holding it, one bolt, one nut. Okay, so what we did here, because I'm doing it on my own, we just put the body of the table on these stands. They're just car stands. You could use a couple of bricks, or you could have a lot more people helping you. It doesn't really matter. We just took the weight off it so we can actually fiddle with the ends that aren't carrying any weight. So whilst we've got all this now in, actually we've got to make sure our shaft bolt is just in loose, just so that it doesn't pop out. And then what we've got is the 4 bolts on either side. There's big mudguard washers. And what we've got to do is try to line up, oops, the holes here with the holes on the inside. Can you see in there? If you want to push that back, you'll see that line up. And then I'll put a nut on the back just to stop it going anywhere. Don't need to go tight just yet. Same with the other 2. They are a little bit awkward to get to, but as you get more in, they'll be closer to being lined up. But as I say, they're not in very accurately. I don't even know if this is accurate. Yeah, it's close. There you go. Another one in. Oops, and a nut on the back with a washer. Oops, I dropped my nut. I dropped my washer. Put that in. Shut the door. I'll just we've got some noisy bastards in here who can't help but shout at each other. I'm just going to shut the door. Oh, no. Oi, put a sock in it. Now, put the last one. Should actually be really close, but surprise, surprise, because we haven't done up anything tight, it's not. We'll need a jiggle. If I can find it. I can't see where it is. I don't think that's going to go in there. Yes, it will. If you jiggle and push the bolt in, eventually it'll go through. Put a nut on the back. As always, difficult to do without my glasses on, so bear with me. Now, I'm going to use a socket. Now these are actually 5/8 nuts, which I think that is that right? Is that 5/8?
You keep moving it, I can't see.
I think it's 5/8.
However, 16 on it.
Hey? 16 mil.
That's 5/8.
Okay, so 16 mil will do if you don't have 5/8, because you might not be in AF country. Is that right?
AF.
Oops. Now what I'm going to do is just hold it with my finger, just finger tight. the moment. Just take up the tension. Don't do it really tight. You just need to get it so that a little bit of tension on the main foot. Bring it up on the inside. Shoot. Some of them are longer than others. Just nip it a little bit. Now, we're going to move to the other end. So, same deal. We've got one already in. We're going to replace place the other one in, the top one, which, surprise, surprise, because we've got the other end straight, lines up perfectly with the hole in the framework. We need to push it in. And again, just finger tight. The third one. Line up. Look at that, perfect. It gets easier as you go on. Got the third one. So as you can see, these are very rustic, very rust cast, engineered in similar fashion, so they're a little bit rough. So don't expect perfection. I'll go around the side, Louis. But so long as you can get these lined up, if they don't line up, then you've got one of the legs wrong way around, or back to front, or vice versa on the other side, whatever. They will go together because we do them up first before we ship them to make sure they actually all work. And this is a test of that. So again, just nip it up. Oops. I'll hold that in. That's sort of nipped. Now, we should be able to take these stands out from underneath, but I'm not sure I can actually physically do that, but I'm going to give it a crack. There you go, one. Oh, that does make it a little bit easier. And two. There we have it. Pretty much sorted out. Now remember, we do have all the bolts all fairly loose. So while we've got it a little bit loose, it's probably a good idea just to test before we go to the trouble of doing up everything tight. So we'll just put the handle on. And what we want to do is just to make sure that all the gears work to lift and lower these two bars. So now as we go down, you see it's sort of moving. It's not quite. There we go. It goes up. There is a stop at the bottom. Stop going any further. And what we want is for these to be level and on the same cog. It looks like we are. If they're not, you may have to disassemble a little bit. But we do have these now lined up, so they're perfectly able now to be bolted everything together really tight. But this system does work. The worm gear operates the main cog, which turns the outer cogs, which lowers the booms. I'm going to call them booms. So that's what we get. A table that raises and lowers. Now the other thing we've got to do before we assemble, put a lid on, is just put the bracing arms. So these have got a little bolt as well, which lock it in so they don't wobble. Once we've got those two on, holes underneath here, which we use to attach a tabletop. And you can use any sort of tabletop you like. You could put glass on here if you want. We've had customers use glass, but a timber top is probably best, something rustic. And just screw into the underneath of this once it's all together and level and everything's perfect. Anyway, there we have it. A completely assembled cast iron crank table. Nothing to do with lighting, but certainly industrial and certainly rustic, and does suit the rest of our product. We don't sell a lot of these, but as I say, they come in from India with our other casting. We like to fill the container with a few things, and this is one of the things that we really love. We use them in the showroom, we use them in our office. They're fantastic. So, if you're in the market for a crank table, we have them on the website. We have others that are coming in. So, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you have any problems assembling one of these once you've had it delivered, certainly let us know and we'll advise how to fix the problem. But they do go together. We test them all first, so you can be sure of that. Anyway, thanks again for watching. If you like our videos, subscribe. Click the subscribe, the bell, the thing, the thumb, whatever it is. We love the fact that you guys are watching. And whilst we're still in slow mode, we'll continue to mess about with these videos. And in the meantime, thanks for watching and see you again soon.